Yeah, good morning together. Thank you for this friendly. I'm happy to hear you and to talk to you to what is regenerative organic farming, or que es la agricultura regenerativa ecológica. I try to learn Spanish, but I'm not so far at the moment. The background for my invitation is an article I wrote together with my colleague from Boku in Vienna, Christian Vogel, in the journal Ecology and Agriculture, and this article was about regenerative beyond organic ? And my talk now is about scientific facts, not about opinions, speculations, and assumptions. I think this is necessary to say at the beginning, because nowadays we have a lot of this, not only in agriculture but also in policy. And at the beginning I want to give you an overview about my talk. At first, of course, an introduction, and I will put the topic in a global context. Why do we have to be more regenerative? Then definitions, of course, is necessary. If a scientist is talking here, we have to talk about definitions, of course, and measures of regenerative, and I can tell you there are a lot of them. Then the question regenerative versus organic,
Después, la cuestión, el dilema regenerativo versus orgánico.
An example, regenerative organic certified, and at the end I come to some conclusions. Yes, I said I want to put it in a general view, and maybe many of you, I hope all of you, are familiar with the topic of planetary boundaries. It was in 29, the first time, this spider web graphics occurred, in this case by Röckström, and he showed us and now we have it every 7 or 8 years actualized the situation of our Earth. I don't want to go too much into detail, but if we look on this, we always can see already with you is the nitrogen cycle, is the phosphorus cycle, is the biodiversity, is the climate change, and is the land use change. And all these 5 points are very strongly, of course, connected to agriculture, and when we are looking on it as a total, we can say agriculture is a victim, perpetrator, and hopefully part of the solution. I don't know what I should do to get this. Okay. So, yeah, thank you. So, some colleagues here, Campbell et al., tried to estimate the share of agriculture by succeeding the planetary boundaries, and it is here shown by this print hatching. Sorry? Doesn't work, I think.
Perdón, no sé si está estropeado, esto que me da.
Oh. It goes, but the pointer is not functioning. The problem is the pointer. Yeah. But you can see if you look on the top, genetic diversity. The share of agriculture is around about 70 or 80%. If you look on the bottom, phosphorus and nitrogen cycle, the share of agriculture is more than 80%. And if you look on land system change on the left side, you can see it's not in the red area, but it's also 80%. And only climate change, there the share of agriculture is just around about 15%. And if you look on the whole sector, including food processing and things like that, we are near 30%. Yeah, so we can really say agriculture is a perpetrator of all these problems. And I want to take a view in economic situation. I know this only for Germany, maybe you have it also for Europe, but I don't know. Boston Consulting Group made an estimation of value creation and costs of agriculture in Germany, and there on the left side, on the bottom you see we have round about 21 billions gross value generation of agriculture on one hand, and on the other hand we have external costs of round about 90 million euros per year. Yeah, and if you look more in detail, 47 billion costs lost by ecosystem services and nearly 1 billion costs by drinking water. And if you transfer it on the land, you can say these are 5,400 euros per hectare and year. And this comes from Boston Consult, not from IFRAM or someone else. Yeah, it comes from Boston Consult, and Boston Consult is accepted in German policy. So this on one hand, and on the other hand, we, together with 21 scientists in Germany, we made a big overview, a big study, a so-called meta-study about the social benefits of organic farming under the conditions of Europe. And we looked for the last 30 years, all what is published in the scientific sector. It was a hard work. People were looking on water quality, soil fertility, biodiversity, climate protection, climate adaptation, resource efficiency, and animal welfare. And I don't want to go too much in detail. You can see it on my publication list at the end. Everywhere where you found green, organic agriculture, dark green means organic agriculture is significantly better. If you find this is small green one here, less green than the other, it is respected to be better. We don't have enough studies to at the end come to the result. It is significantly better. You should take this in mind. And I think the conclusion could always only be agriculture and food industry must become more sustainable, must become more regenerative. We need a transformation of our food system. And at the moment we have three big concepts. We have a lot of smaller concepts. I don't talk about them. Social farming, things like that. Yeah, we have three big concepts to go this way, and one of this, of course, is organic agriculture. The other we talk about here is regenerative agriculture, and of course the agroecology approach is also a concept like this. And of course we have to be more sustainable and more regenerative, and to look a bit more into the detail. And just to discuss this question, is sustainable enough, or do we need more? If we look into the last 5, 6, 7 decades, our agriculture in Europe becomes, look on the left side, more fossil energy, is characterized by more fossil energy, more nutrients, more chemical, plant protection on one hand, and on the other hand, together with less humus in soil, less biodiversity, less soil fertility, and less self-regulation. And that means, for me, sustainable is not enough. We cannot remain on this status. We have to become more regenerative, which means we need more self-regulation, more soil fertility, more biodiversity, more humus in soil, and less fossil energy, less fossil nutrients, and less or better no chemical plant protection. Yeah? So sustainable, to my opinion, as a scientist, is not enough. Okay, these three concepts, and so the conclusion is sustainable, better, regenerative. And we are just talking about this too, not talking about the agroecological approach, but it is similar to what I say to you or want to tell you. Of course, at the beginning we need a definition. We need definitions so it's clear what we are talking about. And I'm very hopeful that you agree to my definition, to my definition of organic agriculture. The term organic farming refers to forms of land management that are clearly defined, carried out in accordance with specific guidelines or regulations. I come back to this later on, and have the following main characteristics: use of farm-owned and regional material cycles, use of natural regulatory mechanisms instead of chemical synthesized production resources, which are avoided in principle or at least as far as possible, use of certain aids and care products for soil, plants and animals that are of natural origin and species appropriated, animal husbandry, breeding and feeding. And most farmers associations, not the EU, also pursue agrarian social goals such as prevention of small-scale farming, among other things. And now I come back to this footnote. Yeah, since 1992, organic farming is regulated in the EU with a corresponding regulation. At first it was a 2092 out of 91, and now we have the 8048 out of 28, the basic regulation, and together with this organic regulation, a state monitored control system was established. And necessary to mention, the Organic Farmer Associations work with guidelines that may exceed the minimum standards of the EU regulation in individual cases. This is, for me, organic farming. I hope you will agree. And now to the definition of regenerative agriculture. And I think you're waiting. What's coming now? Coming now is a very big question mark. We don't know really exactly a definition. And there were some colleagues in the US who published an article and did research before. They tried to look for the definition of regenerative. And for that reason, they reviewed 229 articles in scientific journals that were all which were available. There hadn't been more. Yeah, and 25 homepages from practitioners about regenerative. A short view on this article situation. Yeah, the first time regenerative was mentioned in scientific literature was in 1982. Yeah, and then over many, many years, per year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 articles were published on it. At the end, as we can see here, 2017, 18, and 19, we have an explosion at this point. Yeah, I find this very interesting. It's a hype about it at the moment. Yeah, and results, among others, of this research from the colleagues from the US was, up to now, there is no definition, no regulation, and no law of regenerative by state. Yeah, what we have is a very high diversity of definitions and descriptions, and we have two different approaches of these definitions. One is process-orientated, as we know from organic farming. Organic farming mainly is also process-orientated. And the other approach is outcome-orientated. And this is the door to GMO and glyphosate, I tell you. So I continue regenerative. Okay, we have a high diversity of definitions. Regenerative agriculture refers to a form of agriculture that focuses primarily on regenerating the soil, particularly soil life and biodiversity. This improves, for example, the crumb structure of the soil and the soil's ability to absorb and store nutrients and water. what are the measures and techniques which are used. So there's a lot of many high diversity of measures and techniques due to the diversity of definitions. Some of the measures contradict each other, important, yeah, and nothing, really, nothing is mandatory, everything is possible. Yeah, and we can see there are minimal soil cultivation, direct sowing, deep loosening, diversification of crop rotation, cover crops, undersowing, mulch cultivation, surface rotting, organic fertilization, use of biochar, as we saw 2 days before, use of plant ferments, use of compost tea, adapted water management, integration of animals, precision farming, and agroforestry, and glyphosate, and GMO. Yeah, as I said, nothing is mandatory, everything is possible. And you can continue this list and yeah, many measures are possible to be practiced. Now to a question I found it very important. Where does it come from? Where does this term come from? Who used it at the beginning? Yeah, and so it's also written down in scientific literature. The term regenerative organic agriculture, not organic, regenerative agriculture was first introduced by George Washington Carver. He was an American agriculturist and scientist, and he lived from 1864 to 1943, so we can imagine the term is 100 years old. Yeah, and then the next one was Robert Rodale, the son of the founder of Rodale Institute, and Jérôme Rodale. He was the first one who said his mission was healthy soil, healthy food, healthy people. Yeah, today we would say One Health. Yeah, and his son Robert Rodale coined the term regenerative organic in distinguishing a kind of farming that goes beyond sustainable, and popularized it in the US in the 1970s. So we continue here. He focused also the Rodale Institute on this focus, on this topic, and yeah, we can consume regenerative agriculture, integrates ideas from organic farming, permaculture, agroecology, agroforestry, and restoration ecology, and among other goals, it presents a form of humus management. And one promoter, one scientific promoter, Ratan Lal, said, put the carbon back to soil. Yeah, this, necessary to say and very important. And now I would confront you with an academic graph, which for me, when I saw it the first time, it comes from Wiesmeyer. It's a soil scientist in Munich. It impressed me, and it's so logic because it depends on scientific knowledge. I want to declare it a bit. The x-axis in the x-axis you see here the time in years. In the y-axis you see the carbon in soil, organic carbon in soil in tons per hectare. And you see here a line, the steady state line of sea orc reserves in soil. And this depends on two things. One thing is the location, that means soil and climate. And the other thing is the management, that means crop rotation, manuring, tillage. And if you do this over a long time, you get the kind of steady state. And now, the promoters of regenerative try to tell us if there is an adding amount of carbon input, we would have a 1-to-1 nearly one-to-one situation. As much as we put into the soil, this carbon soil content increases. We heard this 2 days ago, nearly like that. But that is a kind of innovative thesis. This has no background on scientific. The scientific view on this point is very different to that. The scientific view it's a flattening curve. Yeah, that means over the time. Jetzt komme ich gar nicht mehr weiter hier. Can you try? Yeah, yeah. It's a flattening curve as you see it here. Yeah? And if you do this, that means if you put the same amount about many, many years on your arable land, for example, the curve is not like that. The curve is like that. It flattenings. Ja? Und jetzt stoppt er schon wieder. Okay, let's stay here. Okay, and this means the effectiveness of this amount decreases over the time. And if you look here on the top of it, activities in the first 25 years is higher, then the next 25 years is lower, and it's increasing towards zero. That means at the end you reach a new steady state. And you only remain on this steady state if you have the same high amounts you have had before to reach this steady state. If you stop it, the curve will go like this, yeah, back to maybe what your management system was before. Yeah, and this we have to take into account. For example, if we two things, which you have to take into account if we give certificates, CO2 certificates for farmers, we have to force them to continue this management system they did to reach this high amount, but it will not more increase since a several point. Yeah, a special point. Okay, we continue here. Can you next one, please? Regenerative has been booming, this is the point, in Europe for more than 10 years, driven by committed consultants and a hype surrounding potential CO2 certificates. And since 2018, there is has been a three-tiered regenerative organic certified, ROC is it called, system in the US based on the pillars soil, animal welfare and fairness towards farmers and employees. Next point, please. So, and I now try to attempt a differentiation between these, organic farming and regenerative agriculture. Slowly. We start with, okay, more sustainable. We see organic farming is more sustainable. I show you the study. It is very clearly defined by existing regulations and guidelines. Next one. Okay, animal husbandry is possible. Next. My focus on the whole sectors, very important. Next, it is certified or it is certifiable. Processing and marketing structures are existing. No easily soluble nitrogen fertilizers, pesticides and agricultural genetics engineering is allowed. Permaculture is possible. Agroforestry is possible. Circular economy is possible. Humus management is possible, urban gardening is possible, implemented into practice is it also, as you know, we're sitting here. And on the other hand, regenerative agriculture, we have a few intersections there. I don't repeat them for the moment or for the time reason. The focus on crop production is characterizing it at the moment. Yeah, we have a low threshold entry, and this causes potentially a very high acceptance, but we have unclear boundaries. And this, for example, pesticides, easily soluble nitrogen fertilizers, and agricultural genetic engineering are not excluded. Yeah, so here you can see the intersection of both and the differences between these both concepts. So the next one, please. Yeah, these not clear borders led to the point that more and more greenwashing is coming, and this comes here from the homepage of GRAIN. GRAIN is a small farmers association supporting small farmers in Africa, and they wrote down their regenerative was a good idea until corporations, you can also say good big food, captured it. Yeah, you see here Cargill is on your side and Nestle is on your side, and things more like that. Yeah, so the reason or the risk of greenwashing is very big. Next one. So, but on the other hand, I think organic farming is also a problem. And this problem, we call it conventionalization. This is a topic the colleagues in Vienna addressed a few years ago. Conventionalization refers to development in organic farming and food production in which structures, methods, and processes are becoming increasingly similar to those in conventional farming and food production, for economical reasons. Yeah, and examples for that I would like to give: reducing crops in crop rotation, less legumes in crop rotation, increasing use of admitted easily soluble fertilizers, decoupling of crop farming and livestock farming, and increase in approved assessing aids. And the last one, please, is loss of seasonality and regionality, every product at any time. These are only examples. There could be much more be addressed. And so one solution, and I just heard, and I'm very happy about it, Spain is working on a similar thing, regenerative certified, an inspiring example coming from the US. I mentioned it already. Next one, please. And it depends on 3 pillars: soil health, animal welfare, and social farmers. So it is an approach, a holistic approach, and not looking just on the soil. I don't want to go more into detail here, but please, the next one. This is very important. Organic is the foundation of it. Yeah, it is also plus organic. And the next one, and they make a differentiation to get an easy access in 3 standards. We start with bronze, we have silver, and we have gold. Yeah, and what you have to fulfill, of course, is greater to reach gold. And please, the next one. Oh, yeah, this you can see this gold, silver, bronze, and examples for that. For example, no, one back. We are too quick. Yeah, one is vegetative cover. Yeah, the vegetative cover has to reach bronze has to be between 25 to 50% cover of the arable soil. To reach silver, you have to have 50 to 75, and to reach gold, you have to have 75 to 100, and a legume fruit. Yeah, and can we go further? Or? This was here, yeah, and in the crop rotation for bronze, you have to have 3 crops in crop rotation. For silver, you have to have 4, and for gold, you have to have 7 plus a nitrogen-fixing legume in the rotation. And the last example, and then I come to my conclusions. Regenerative measures, gold, silver, bronze again, and you can see here there are a lot of examples starting from agroforestry or what I find very necessary, integrated crops and animals again, or silvopasture establishment, vegetative barriers and things like that. Also all we know without GMO and without total herbicides is possible, and you have to choose minimum 3, 4 or 5 and more to get these different status. Yeah, next one. You can see this here on the top. It started in 2018 and in 23 and 24. Now it reached nearly 8 million hectares. They are certified at the moment, and there's also one colleague from Spain, but in Europe at the moment only a very few. Yeah, last one, please. My conclusions. First, regarding the planetary boundaries, there is a great demand for agriculture to be more sustainable, better, more regenerative. The term regenerative is not clearly defined nor protected by state. On one hand, Bigfoot already captured it, and on the other hand, it could be a kind of bridge technology for an easy access to a more generative organic agriculture. And for me, respect to all farmers who try to act more regenerative, that could not to understood my criticism on what is going on there. But regenerative has always been part of the DNA of organic farming. Maybe in the last centuries, in some parts, it faded into the background, conventionalization of organic farming. And organic farming and the organic food industry should take up the momentum generated by the regenerative movement and use it for a further development. And ROC is making an inspiring start in this direction. And the last point is decision makers should orientate themselves on facts, not on speculations, opinions, and assumptions. Yeah, thank you for your attention.